Hello viewers, welcome to Sunny Views episode 1 season 2, where we will be discussing STEM versus humanities. You might notice that there's a little bit difference this season as there is no teachers, it is just us students. So let's go around introducing ourselves. My name's Emily Hindle, I'm your host for today, and the subjects that I do for A-levels is economics, French and English literature.
I'm Manuel Villavieja and I do A-level maths, further maths, physics and chemistry.
I'm Paula and I do economics, English lit, French and psychology for A-level.
I'm Selena and I do psychology, Spanish and history.
Okay. And do you guys know what you want to go do at university next year already?
Yeah, aerospace engineering.
Okay, wow.
Psychology.
Law.
Okay, I'm planning on doing business and like linguistics, also very humanities, so I do. Okay, so let's get started with the conversation. Do you guys think that there is like different study methods for STEM subjects versus humanities subjects?
Definitely. There's no essay preparation in STEM. I haven't ever done an essay in any STEM subjects. Like the worst thing ever would be like the 6-mark questions in physics, which you just straight over write bullet points. That's the best way to do it, not an entire paragraph.
I would say for more humanities subjects, of course, there is a lot of essay writing, obviously. And I think the most important part is analysis, making sure you go as in-depth as humanly possible. And I feel like that's the most important study technique to take for humanities subjects,
Yeah, I think it involves like memorizing much more than STEM does, but it's also knowing what arguments you're going to put forward. So yeah, I mean, I remember when I used to do STEM, it was a lot more of like practicing questions and like the practical aspect.
Like I know for a lot of humanities subjects, I know blurting's like a big part of it because there's so much like content to write in the essays. Manuel, do you ever like blurt for like maths? Your face looks very confused, so I'm guessing
What
no.
does blurt mean? Let's start with that.
Okay, so blurting is like where it's a study technique where you kind of, you're studying your notes or you're studying like summarized notes you've made or like even past paper questions, and then you kind of just literally blur everything you remember onto some people do it onto a mind map, some people just do it onto a paper. And then the gaps where your knowledge is, you fill in with a different color, and then you study what you don't know. Because there's like, no, never?
No, it's just pure past papers.
Okay.
Like, the only thing that's similar is in like, because the UK has decided that there needs to be some written communication in both chemistry and physics. And so in the written communication, you just blurt out anything you can, like what I told you about the 6-mark questions. It's really small. The people that are marking it are physicists, so they're marking it like physicists.
Right. I feel like, blurring, like you said, is really important, especially for subjects like economics. Lots of information, lots of different terms, lots of different definitions that you need to know really specifically. For psychology as well, for studies such as the procedure of different studies, the findings, the conclusions, it's, like you said, it's really important for humanities subjects more than STEM. I mean, I know I don't do a lot of STEM subjects, but still, I think blurring could be applied to both fields of study.
I feel like especially sciences it could be.
Yeah.
Like I think maths and like physics, there's a lot of like numbers and formulas, so that makes it more difficult to blurt because like each formula will be subjective to the calculation you're given. But like I feel like for biology and chemistry there would be some. I'm pretty sure.
Like I think blurting doesn't necessarily work for all humanities. Like last year I did English literature and I don't think blurting is the most effective method because of how subjective the questions are. Like you can never really know exactly what the structure of an essay will be. So
Okay.
That is true. Like for like analysis of characters or different themes in a book, really hard to blurt that information because you really have no idea what sort of question you're going to get. So yeah,
because there's not like topics like in economics you're given like this topic covers these bullet points, and in English lit it's like a free-for-all. But like would you guys say that there's like, so in your opinion, would you think STEM is like more stressful than humanities subjects?
I mean, it depends, because in STEM you're wrong. Like there's no in between. You're either correct or you're either not correct. But what happened, especially when I studied in GCSE English, I had no idea what was going on because I didn't know whether this was a good idea to write on it, whether this was a good structure to do anything. So it was all over the place. I didn't really know. And I prefer like objectivity straight down. So like in chemistry, if I get something wrong, okay, I know what to do. I know what I got wrong. I can do it again. But not in So like if you have a bad grade, how do you make it better in English or in humanities?
Would you say that's like kind of more difficult if in STEM there's always like a right answer? There's not so much like in English literature where there's so many right answers. So would you say that makes STEM subjects more difficult because there's one answer for each question?
I mean, yeah, but then you know exactly how to get there. There's only one path in STEM. Meanwhile, there's like a bunch of different paths. You know what I mean? Like much of different paths in humanities where you could go, and like depending on the path you're taking to the answer. It could be better or worse. But in STEM, it's just one path.
Do you think that's easier or more difficult? Like
For me, it's easier. Like it's simpler to remember. It's easier. Like you just have to do a bunch of past paper questions so you know the path to the answer, if we can call it.
Okay. Agree or disagree, guys?
I think the open-endedness of humanities subjects definitely makes it a lot more stressful. Especially because everyone has different interpretations. Like I remember like us three, like after the year 12 English Lit exam, like we were all asking each other like, oh, what did you put for this? What are your points for this? Like what, like your essay structure and stuff. So it is really stressful, I would say, that part of it.
I think they're both difficult, but they're difficult in different ways, because for one of it is like, for STEM, it's, how do you get to like that final like solution? It's still very complicated. But then for humanities, it's like you have to be able to like form a coherent argument the whole way through. So it's like difficult, but in different ways.
Okay, I'm going to read you guys a statement, and I'd like you guys to discuss, agree or disagree. So humanities are essential for developing well-rounded individuals who and without them, society risks of becoming devoid of creativity. Do you think that without humanities, society would just be devoid of creativity and imagination?
I mean, no, I'm a very creative person without having to do anything. Like, I get humanities are useful and they are needed. It's just, I don't need them in an academic level. Like, I'm already a creative person. I know how to do a bunch of stuff. I don't need to invest time in school to do that. You know?
Okay. Do you think that applies for everyone? Like, do you think if in school we only did STEM subjects, people would still have their creativity there outside? So maybe we should focus on that in school, because it's inevitable. The truth is that like in career and like future options, STEM does do better. So do you think that in school we should focus on like just STEM subjects and kind of veer away from humanities, and then we can focus on our own personal interests in literature outside of school?
I mean, at that point, that's just kind of up to the person. Like, if someone forces me to read a book, I'm not reading it. Okay. Simple. But if someone forces me to do an equation, I'll do it just fine.
Okay.
I don't know.
And I'd also argue against the idea that STEM is like necessarily the better one for society. I think humanities also offers society so many things that STEM doesn't, because as people we depend on like human experience, and STEM doesn't really offer that on the same level. Like STEM can't really comment on politics and law and like historical advancements, because that's so personal to us, while science can't comment on that.
Yeah. I think humanities subjects in schools are absolutely essential, along with STEM subjects, absolutely. Like, just the mix of those two, of the subjectivity and the objectivity of both of them together, really creates a great blend for then in later adulthood when going to university, writing essays, calculating, doing all sorts of equations. Like, that sort of mix is really essential, especially like you said about physics, writing 6 markers. I know you said that they're in bullet points, but I imagine that in STEM subjects at university, they do ask you to write essays.
I don't know. I've never been to a university in a STEM subject.
I know, but I mean, if you've done research about different universities, maybe the sort of course structure, I mean, I don't know. I'm saying possibly you also have to write essays in STEM subjects.
I think I'm going to use way more ChatGPT now.
Okay, but like with the ChatGPT, because we know that like the world, especially now, there's so much more technology and data being produced like all the time, where our like planet's kind of becoming revolved around innovations in technology. So, and also there's new thing like recently where like people, especially humanitarian subjects, like not so much sciences and things like that, because that's like required for degree for a lot of subjects. Like if you want to be an engineer, you can't not have a degree, like you kind of have to have one. Whereas for a lot of like business and like some of the social sciences, degrees aren't as necessary. So do you think that now humanities are like becoming the degrees are becoming a bit of a waste of a resource in a world that increasingly relies on like data and technology advancements?
I mean, an engineer still needs humanities. Like, an engineer still needs to know the economics of what he's building. An engineer still needs to know what is that building for. Technology is not just science. It's science applied to humans, science applied to humanities. And the problem is that, well, yeah, anyone can do business to enough level without a degree, but engineerings are so specialized and so mechanical that you really can't do it without any degree. So yeah, it's possible to do it without a business degree, but the business degree guarantees that you have the capabilities to the employer.
Okay. So you guys, humanities a waste of degree resources or not?
Absolutely not. I mean, like, I do humanities subjects. It would be wrong for me to say, oh yeah, just completely remove all sorts of aspects of humanities subjects. But like, I think for careers like architecture, they put both humanities and STEM subjects together. You know, the art aspect of it, drawing all sorts of floor plans and blueprints and things. But then also doing all sorts of equations, making sure, you know, every wall is at a certain height, every single little detail of a house or a building is put in that exact spot. So like, of course, I think that's a really great example of a good mix between the two. So taking away that humanities aspect of it is going to hinder that, I think.
Okay.
Exactly. And I think like STEM, people who go into STEM can still use humanities to their benefit. For example, knowing how to write an essay will allow you to think outside the box, and to think outside the box would mean coming up with new innovations, creative ideas that will like further STEM as well, not just humanities.
Because I know like I can't think of a single like technological advancement that hasn't been influenced by humanities, like the ethics of it, the law, the social understanding. Like I think they do go hand in hand, but there's like a big debate as to, because a lot of people like I've seen online and online forums say like STEM's way better, it's way more useful, you get paid more. And then like statistically as well, like it said that on average, like coming out of university, the employment rate for STEM is 95,000, like the average salary, whereas for humanitarian subjects it's 40,000. So it's like people are saying STEM is a lot more important and humanities aren't as important. So maybe if everyone, because at the end of the day it's enjoyment, like if I enjoyed STEM subjects I would do it, but I enjoy more humanitarian ones. But like, do you think that people and education should sway to more STEM learning and kind of to more educating? Because now we have a choice, like we could have all chosen more STEM subjects if we really wanted to, but like we were given the choice of either. But if we were given just STEM, do you think that would like help us more in the future? Because realistically we could get higher wages. So do you think, and probably more innovation in society as it's like quote unquote more useful. So do you think if we were, education institutions were to sway to like kind of, I guess, force all students to be STEM, we would be better off? Like it would be better for the students and their future? Or do you think that's like nonsense?
I feel like it's controversial because it's like education is manipulating what students choose to do based on what makes more money rather than their passion. So it's controversial whether that should have the priority, because like money may not be the priority for everyone, and maybe their happiness and fulfillment in their career is more important.
Yeah.
I mean, no, because I'm the only one doing like pure STEM here, and if all of us four would be doing pure STEM, that means I have 4 times more the competition. So
you wouldn't want that?
Definitely not.
Okay.
I mean, as well with like all sorts of technological innovations and all sorts of these new inventions, then who is going to write the articles about it in journalism and newspapers? You know, so they work together. You have to put the two together in order to make it all work, to make society, you know, all together. So if we're all doing STEM, then how are you going to explain how your new invention is going to be like world changing, is going to shift the entire perspective that we have on this new innovation? So it's,
well,
you know,
maybe if we were all in STEM, we could write software that does that for us, and then we can leave humanities in the
right, but
past.
then that takes off the authenticity of it, because when a human writes, you can tell the difference between a robot and a human writing something. If you ask ChatGPT to write you an essay, it looks right, but it seems off a bit. But then when you read, let's say, an article in the New York Times, The Guardian, it feels more authentic because there are people talking about their own experiences. And also when you ask ChatGPT about, oh, what do you think about this? And then they say, oh, I'm a robot, I don't have an opinion on this, I can't have emotions or something. It's really like dystopian almost. So you can really tell the difference between.
Okay. So you don't want everyone to be forced into STEM and then we can advance our AI?
No.
Okay.
I don't really like AI.
So a question I had for you guys, because you're both psychologists. Manuel and I don't do psychology, but I know psychology kind of goes in, like it's a social science, but it's a very like on the edge social science.
Right.
Are you guys more, it's humanities or it's more STEM?
Okay, you can speak.
I would say it's both. It really depends on what you're studying. Like last year, we studied biological psychology, and everything we studied had to follow the scientific method. We basically studied the same thing we studied at GCSE biology, just a bit like more advanced because it's A-level. But then we also studied Freud, which is much more subjective and doesn't follow the scientific method. But something interesting that we learn in class is how reductionist it is just to focus on the nature of something. Just to say that like, because something is like the biological explanation, that is necessarily the right explanation, because we as humans are more than that, supposing we have a consciousness, like, so.
Yeah. I know that it's a really big controversial topic on if psychology is a science or not. I personally think it is, because it follows the scientific method, as Selena said. Experiments, data, collecting data, statistics, all of this sort of thing. It is a science, I would say. And people saying that, oh, it's a humanities subject, I disagree. Though they have their subjective aspects of it, but it's also objective, because you can't say, like, I don't know, for example, a child is acting aggressively. There is subjectivity based on the researcher, observing them, but there's also the objectivity of if they look angry, then they are angry. Like you can't say it's wrong, right? You can't say they're happy. So there is objectivity and subjectivity together.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have an opinion on that. I have no idea. You?
I would say that psychology is not a science. Right. Same thing with economics, and whatever other like weird study, because science started as a study of nature and like how it's trying to get us to the truth. But the problem with economics is that not everyone agrees with the truth. If everyone agreed, like half of politics will be gone like that. Same thing with psychology. If psychology brought us to an objective truth, I would be capable of, I don't know, like studying for 6 hours straight without taking a break, because I know how my mind works.
Right.
But it's also, there's things in science that we don't have an objective answer for them yet. Like we don't know why something came from nothing. We don't have an answer to that question. So it doesn't mean like we discount psychology as a science just because it can't provide with the answers.
And you also mentioned the study of nature, as it had started from that. There's also human nature, how the brain works. Like you said, I mean, it can change, for example, your study techniques. You can apply all of these different things from neuropsychology, from cognitive psychology. You can apply it to your own life. And I think that as well makes it scientific, because science is also applying all sorts of inventions, new innovations to real life. So,
I mean, once there's an essay somewhere, it's not science for me.
Right, but there's also, I guess you could say that, but it's also analysis of behavior, because essays, you do analysis in essays, but you can also just do, let's say, an essay out loud, which is like a monologue or a speech or whatever. You just observe the behavior of someone and analyze it. What could it mean? How would if they have, like, I don't know, a lot of testosterone, that increases aggression, so you analyze that, so yeah, I guess it's both.
I guess it's easier to see when someone is good at STEM than at psychology. So when someone's good at STEM, he will build you a rocket. But when someone's good at psychology, he will make your child less angry. You know what I mean? Like.
Okay. Next question.
Okay. I was gonna ask, actually, you guys might know a bit more, because it's about behavior. Right. Do you guys see a difference in more STEM swayed students and like humanities students, because like I know for me, my mum is very STEM. She did like very humanities. She did like English literature, history, while my dad did like engineering and maths. And I feel like I can see a bit of a difference in their like behavior and the way they like view the world. Do you agree or disagree?
That's my parents actually as well. My mom, she studied theater at university. My dad studied economics, and they do have a lot of very differing perspectives on things happening in the world. Like I say, I give my opinion on something, and then my dad's really objective about it. A bit more pessimistic, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree, a bit more pessimistic.
And my mom is a bit more like neutral or a bit more objective. So, yeah.
I think if you're like more into humanities subjects, I think you're more like open-minded. And that might be because you have to think a lot more critically about everything you do and everything you think and write about. Like I know in English lit, like Miss is always like, but why are they doing this? How does that make them feel? And I don't think you get that in science. It's like, okay, it's this and this is the answer. And I think that's why like maybe if you're more into STEM, you're more like, there's like, you see things linearly, like there's one way. And then I think it really changes like nature or nurture. Like if you're more into humanities, you might be more like, oh, fa la la la, like open-minded.
I definitely think that English literature has made me more sympathetic, and history has made me understand more about like past mistakes and how we can improve that in the future. I look at like news stories now and I see like history repeating itself. So it does like foster sympathy, I think, when you like are humanities focused.
Yeah. What do you think?
I mean, both of my parents are pure STEM as well. My mother is a pharmacist, so it's chemistry and biology, and my father is also an engineer. So I don't have anything to say over that, but my behavior at least is like, my friends, all the friends that pick STEM, like they do not care about, they care a lot less about what we would call like being polite or political correctness or however you want to call it. Like people in STEM, as far as I've seen, care way less what other people think about others, you know, about themselves.
Okay, maybe they're less empathetic.
Yeah, I would say that.
Or would you think because your parents are both so also STEM driven, that like that's one of the reasons why you enjoy the subject so much? Like you're fully like STEM. Do you think if they were both a historian and a journalist, it would be different?
I cannot see myself doing STEM. So I guess no. Like my STEM started by watching like a rocket go up, thinking it was really cool, and then starting to look at it. Okay.
And then I have some fun little scenarios for you guys to discuss. So the first one is, I told you guys this one earlier. If aliens landed on Earth, who would you send to greet them? A philosopher or a scientist?
That's a hard one, I would say. Because even if you told me it before, I was really thinking about it. Because I think it depends on what the alien is trying to achieve, what kind of information are they wanting.
What do we know about the alien already? Sorry.
Nothing. It just arrived, like UFO landed on Earth.
Do we even know their language?
Hypothetically, it speaks English.
All right, because we know from movies that every single alien speaks perfect English.
Of course. And then, like, the one person has to greet them as a philosopher or a scientist. But, like, think of it more like a metaphorical representation of a STEM human and, like, a humanities human. Who would you send to it?
I would send a scientist, just so we can show the aliens how advanced we are. Because if we send a philosopher, it will be much harder to communicate that.
Okay.
Because maybe they start talking about theory of form or, I don't know, Nietzsche or Plato or whatever. And it'll be harder for the alien to gauge how advanced we are as a civilization. But if you send a scientist with the equation of lift, E equals mc squared, whatever, they will definitely gauge how advanced we are.
But I think if we sent a scientist and then we're like, oh, look how advanced we are. And they're like, yeah, but we just landed on another planet. Like, I don't think we're anywhere near as advanced as that alien who's just like came. I feel like I would send the philosopher maybe, or like the historian, to kind of teach them about our history. Because a scientist, like because numbers are numbers. like there's I don't know, it's like a language of the world, you know, like it doesn't change. And I don't know if in their planet it'll be the same, but like the calculations and the science, that they're clearly very advanced. I mean, they've come to another planet. So I don't know whether like a philosopher would teach them. It's a really hard question, I know.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that like I said before, it depends on what type of information the alien wants to know. Because if the alien wants to know about this new species called humans, about Homo sapiens, right? I feel like the philosopher is going to be able to say more about what humans are like. And then, because sometimes, I mean, at least for me personally, when I go into a new country, I want to know about the culture as much as possible and be respectful and be like aware of my surroundings and the people around me, right? So I know a philosopher might not be the best person to tell me like, oh, this is the culture, right? But in this hypothetical situation, I would send the philosopher, as in they could talk more about how the humans are like, and then how aliens can better adapt to this new environment that they're in.
Yeah, like the scenario is pretty vague. If we want to know what the alien wants, so like
true.
if the alien wants to catalog how much we know, we send a scientist. If the alien wants to know our biology, we send a biologist. If an alien wants to know our history and our culture, we send a philosopher. And if an alien wants to conquer us, we send them a nuke.
Okay. Okay. Or what if the alien does want to conquer us, but he doesn't have any weapons? I feel like if he did want to conquer us, I'd maybe send like a historian, and then the historian will tell all of our past, and they'll be like, I feel bad for these guys, and then maybe they'll go home. Okay, I have a few more of those little scenario questions. So if you had to download all knowledge, like Matrix style, download the knowledge of like everything from like sciences and maths, or everything from like literature and history, which one would you choose?
That we have discovered, or to be discovered as well?
That we have discovered.
Literature and history, I think, because science, like if we destroy like all scientific documents, they would build themselves back up because of how objective science is. But with history, because it's part of our human experience, it's not something that like can be measured or can be like solved through an equation. So it would make much more sense to save that part.
Okay, but that's also every maths problem you can solve as well in your brain.
But if we were able to do it once, I think we can do it again.
That's true.
I don't know. I'm conflicted because, I mean, I really stand for the fact that like there has to be a mix. You can't choose one or the other. Yeah. You can't choose A or B, X or Y, right? So but if I did have to choose, I guess I would agree with Selena. Everything that Selena said, basically.
I would choose science, all of the science, because like what's exactly the scenario? Like I get all the science, but all the philosophy is lost.
Like you get all the facts of science.
All the facts of science, but I don't know any philosophy.
No.
Like what about the rest of the world? It just stays there?
No, it's only you that has all the knowledge now.
I mean, great. Now I know all the knowledge. I can advance science way more. Like imagine a super intelligent person. Like I'm the next Elon Musk.
Yeah.
I get the doubloons. Like I get all the money.
Yeah, you would. I didn't actually think of it like that until you said it, Celine. Like everything in science and maths can be built back up, but like literature and all those things, I feel like no one can write the same thing twice.
Yeah.
So I think you've swayed me now. I think I would rather do the humanities one. Okay, now, would you rather trust a philosopher or a super advanced AI to babysit your child? So that's like, would you rather have a really deep thinker or a really intelligent machine to look after your kid for the night?
But is the philosopher also a robot?
No, the philosopher's human, but he's just a bit like.
I have heard from sources, I forgot which ones, that there are robots being built and being like bought by people to like give them like emotional support or something for like elderly people who live alone, for example, who are widows. Like they have to like they have some sort of aid or some sort of emotional support, as in to like help them emotionally. I feel like that just, I don't like that at all. I like it when there's a human in front of me, like, because there are also jobs where like people volunteer to be emotional supports to elderly people. So it takes away that authenticity, because if I tell a robot like my deepest, darkest secrets, it doesn't feel right to me.
So you'd rather have the philosopher babysit your child?
Yeah, Absolutely. Like, I want my child to be like smart, you know, be
Okay.
knowledgeable. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't see why a philosopher couldn't babysit a child. It doesn't seem like it requires science to do it. Like, well, I don't think we've reached a point where AI is advanced enough to trust it above a human, and I don't know if we ever will. So I wouldn't trust it.
You wouldn't trust it.
I would pick, at this point, you all know, the super advanced AI, because what's a philosopher going to help my child with? Hello, little child. Do you know what the theory of form is? Goo goo gaga.
Well, I'm sure the philosopher knows how
Like-
to like make food. I don't think his
super,
whole
yeah,
life
super
is
advanced
philosophy.
AI will go through like every single nutritional study
Okay.
to like give me the best nutrition plan for my child.
Okay, so your baby will be really well fed.
Exactly. And
Okay. Okay, good. Well, thank you guys. I think we will not do another discussion, but that was very insightful. So have your opinions changed on the STEM subjects or humanities subjects, or are you still just like how you came in?
yeah, just how it came in.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I'd say how I came in as well. But yeah, thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
So stay tuned for next week, guys, where we will be discussing TikTok, whether it is good or a waste of our time. Thank you.